Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivraj Acharya Stottara Shatta Shishimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Gaura Prema Mandira. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Narayanam Namaskritta Narang Chaiva Narottamam Deving Saraswating Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naimshtiki. We are continuing reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 28. This chapter is entitled Puranjana becomes a woman in the next life. Text 20. Prabodayati ma vigyam. Prabodhayati ma vigyam. Vyushite shoka karshita. Vyushite shoka karshita. Vartmeitat kriya mediyam. Vartmeitat kriya mediyam. Vira sura pinishyati. Vira sura pinishyati. Prabodayati ma vigyam. Vyushite shoka karshita. Vartmeitat kriya mediyam. Vira sura pinishyati. Let's chant. Nada, cheese. Prabodayati ma vigyam. Vyushite shoka karshita Vartmeitat kriha mediyam Virasura pinishyati Prabodayati mavigyam
Vyushite
shoka karshita
Vartmaitat kriha mediyam
Virasura pinishyati. Word for word translation. Prabodayati gives good counsel. Ma unto me. Avigyam foolish. Vyushite at the time of my being away. Shoka by aggrievement. Karshita being aggrieved and thus dried up. Vartma path. Etat this griha mediam of household responsibilities. Virasuhu the mother of great heroes. Api although Neshyati will she be able to execute. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. King Puranjana continued thinking how, when he was in a state of bewilderment, his wife would give him good counsel, and how she would become aggrieved when he was away from home. Although she was the mother of so many sons and heroes, the king still feared that she would not be able to maintain the responsibility of household affairs. Purport. At the time of death, King Puranjana was thinking of his wife, and this is called polluted consciousness. As Lord Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita 15.7, Mamevangsha jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatana, manashastan indriyani, prakriti-stani karshati. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. The living entity is, after all, part and parcel of the Supreme Spirit, Krishna. In other words, Krishna's constitutional position and the living entity's constitutional position are the same qualitatively. The only difference is that the living entity is eternally an atomic particle of the Supreme Spirit. Mamaivangsha jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha. In this material world of conditional life, the fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord, the individual soul, is struggling due to his contaminated mind and consciousness. As a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, a living entity is supposed to think of Krishna. But here we see that King Puranjana, the living entity, is thinking of a woman. Such mental absorption with some sense object brings about the living entity's struggle for existence in this material world. Since King Puranjana is thinking of his wife, his struggle for existence in the material world will not be ended by death. As revealed in the following verses, King Puranjana had to accept the body of a woman in his next life due to his being overly absorbed in thoughts of his wife. Thus, mental absorption in social, political, pseudo-religious, national and communal consciousness is cause for bondage. During one's lifetime, one has to change his activities in order to attain release from bondage. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 3.9. Yagyartat karmanonyatra lokoyang karma bandhanaha. If we do not change our consciousness in this life, whatever we do in the name of social, political, religious, or communal and national welfare will be the cause of our bondage. This means we have to continue in material conditional life. As explained in Bhagavad Gita 15.7, Mana shast an indriyani prakriti sthani karshati. When the mind and senses are engaged in material activities, one has to continue his material existence and struggle to attain happiness. In each and every life, one is engaged in the struggle to become happy. Actually, no one in this material world is happy, but the struggle gives a false sense of happiness. A person must work very hard, and when he attains the result of his hard work, he thinks himself happy. In the material world, people do not know what real happiness is. Sukham atyantikam yatat buddhigrayam atindriyam. Bhagavad Gita 6:21. Real happiness must be appreciated by one's transcendental senses. Unless one is purified, the transcendental senses are not manifest. Therefore, to purify the senses, one must take to Krishna consciousness and engage the senses in the service of the Lord. Then there will be real happiness and liberation. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita 15.8, Shariram yad avapnoti yad chapyut kramatishvaraha grihitvaitani sanyati vayur gandhan ivashayat. The living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another, as the air carries aromas. If the wind passes over a garden of roses, it will carry the aroma of roses. And if it passes over a filthy place, it will carry the stench of obnoxious things. Similarly, King Puranjana, the living entity, now passes the air of life over his wife, a woman. Therefore, he has to accept the body of a woman in his next life. Om Agyana Timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitang Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Sri Rupang Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatang Vitang Tang Sajivam Sadvaitang Savadutang Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitangscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. King Puranjana continued thinking how, when he was in a state of bewilderment, his wife would give him good counsel, and how she would become aggrieved when he was away from home. Although she was the mother of so many sons and heroes, the king still feared that she would not be able to maintain the responsibility of household affairs. Thank you for coming. Welcome to Sarved. Hare Krishna. So here we hear in detail how King Puranjana, at the time of death, becomes absorbed in thoughts of his wife. And we can hear that he's thinking of very subtle exchanges which happened between him and his wife. There is this saying, no, that the wife is the better half of the husband. And from this verse we can get a glimpse why such a statement actually exists, because the wife in a proper marriage, she will give a lot of support to the husband. And especially we can hear it's an emotional support she's giving. But not only that, in the Vedic scriptures it is actually said that the wife, she's the what's the word? She's the one who's, making one perform religious activities. She will support one in dharma, and thus artha comes. She will give sense gratification, and she will also help one to attain liberation ultimately. I don't know exactly when this pastime of Puranjana, this story happened, but it's a long time ago, and if we compare this scene to what we see today in relationships, I think there is a difference, in the sense that we are actually not able to perceive much this kind of relationships in today's world anymore. We know that the relationship between man and woman can become the most intimate. We know that in the spiritual world there is different relationships. There is the relationship of servant and master. There's the relationship of father and child, or mother and child. There's the relationship of friend, and then there is the relationship of lover and beloved, and this is the highest, the most intimate. And in the same way also, in the material world, this is the most intimate relationship. But there is a difference in nowadays loving relationships and those some 1,000 years ago. One example came to my mind of around 5,000 years ago, when King Pandu, the son of Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula and Sahadev, he left his body. He left behind him 2 wives. And these 2 wives were fighting who can go and jump into the funeral fire. So first of all, it is unheard of in today's world that somebody will share the partner share the partner in a subservient way. There is sharing of partner going on. It's called open relationship, and this is happening in the world. But what's the difference? In the open relationship there is no responsibility, meaning everyone can do what they like. But in this example of Pandu with Kunti and Madri, we see how 2 women get married to the same man, and they live together and both have children, and they live together as a family. And alone that fact, from that fact we can understand that these relationships were much different to what we experience nowadays. on the gross material platform, it will not make sense to share one's partner. In order to agree to such a thing, one has to be situated on a platform of high thinking. One has to be actually, in a way, situated maybe not on a spiritual platform, but on a elevated consciousness. Because now I'm speaking especially about the wives, they have a consciousness of, I'm not the center of the universe, I'm one among many, or in that sense I'm one among two. So the ego is shaped in a way which makes it possible. So that's one thing, but then the second thing, which is even more unusual nowadays, is that they want to die because they miss their husband so much and they want to follow him. And of course this actually, in order for this to take place, also the person involved, the women involved, they have to understand that there is a spirit soul, otherwise it will not happen. If there is no understanding that I'm eternal and that actually my husband who just left, he's still alive, but he left, he went somewhere else, how can somebody take this step? But that means that now we have Kunti and Madri, and they are sharing their husband, but they are so in love, they are so attached to him, that they want to die and go to the place where he is going. And this love, it cannot be based on sense gratification only. Because if it's only about sense gratification, there are so many people in this world who can gratify my senses in that way. Everybody has the same senses, more or less, of course, different quality, but the essence is the same. So if it's about this, why should I die? Why should I take this austerity of jumping in the fire if I can just... So it's not primarily about sense gratification, there's a higher purpose. And here we see how Puranjana, at the time of death, we know that Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, Yang yang vapi smaram bhavam, that at the Tyachantante Kalevaram, that at the time of death, the essence of our bhav, of our state of being, as Prabhupada translates, will manifest. Because at that time, our very subconscious becomes triggered. Because being in such a fearful situation, which gives us such a shock, this will come out. And here we can see how he thinks about very subtle exchanges between his wife, how she would give him emotional support by speaking supporting words, or how she would show sadness when he's not there. And of course, the fact that he is now remembering this is that it left a very deep impression in his heart. So even though we're hearing this pastime of King Puranjana in the light of trying to understand how the relationship in this material world between man and woman especially, but all kinds of relationship where we develop material attachment are actually an obstacle for our self-realization, we can actually appreciate also how certainly there was a deep relationship between the two, and because we don't really see that nowadays. We know that people, they divorce a lot. They get married and then when there is some difficulty, they will separate, they will divorce. Or they cheat on each other. Or they abuse. But here we see there is actually some substantial attachment. So that can be appreciated in one way. So we're speaking here about the transmigration of the soul, and I found one quote of Srila Prabhupada which actually points out how important it is to deal with this topic. In a purport of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 3rd canto, he says, "The greatest danger is transmigration of the soul from one body to another." And we know there is this verse in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says, "Mahatpayat trayate mahatpayat svalpa punya." You know this verse? Where Krishna says, even... So when one performs just a little of devotional service, then one gets protected from this greatest fear, and that greatest fear is transmigration of the soul. Of course, just by performing little devotional service, just by taking one Gulab Jamun, which is devotional service, doesn't mean that one immediately attains freedom from the cycle of birth and death. But Prabhupada pointed out that it is understood that his material life is finished, because he started the process of devotional service, and next life, if not in this life, then next life, he or she can continue. So we are hearing about Puranjana, and it is really pointing out to us how the soul leaves the body at the time of death. And I was just listening a class the other day of Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was saying, people don't know about this. They are completely ignorant about this. And actually, when we walk out, if we go to the lake, now we go to the lake, we do Harinam, we do book distribution, we do Prasadam distribution. It's a good time for us to be very observative. At least that's what I do, I observe. And we see that people are completely in ignorance. Why? Because they are living in a way that they don't worry about what comes at the end of life. They may be worrying about so many things, what happens tomorrow, what happens next week, what happens next year, but they don't think about what happens when I'm gonna leave this body. Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Mai Ki Jai, Shri Shri Gaura Ki Jai. Their only concern, again, primarily, is sense gratification. How can I enjoy? How can I be happy by enjoying my senses? And this is a very dangerous position, because by moving around in this world, we are constantly associating with the three modes of material nature. Every action we do, unless we are completely engaged in pure devotional service, so even the neophyte devotee is always in touch with the three modes of material nature. So we are always associating with these modes, and these modes, by associating with these modes, we accumulate karma. So if somebody associates in the mode of goodness, if somebody studies books and maybe does something for the environment, protecting trees and all this is all goodness. So they are associating with the mode of goodness. If somebody is working very hard and trying to accumulate money, and with this money buys items for the sense gratification, buying a nice car, running after beautiful women or handsome men, then one is associating with the mode of passion. And if somebody is harming other living beings, for example killing animals, if somebody is hurting other human beings by words, by actions, just because one wants to, is selfish, then one is associating with the mode of ignorance. And all these activities will have reactions. Prabhupada said, we know Prabhupada was very expert in using appropriate words. He used to call it the stringent laws of material nature. And stringent means very tight. It's like a string, it's stringent. There is not really an option if you want or not, but they work that way. And so when we observe how people live, many people, they eat animals, they actually harm their own bodies by intoxication, they harm others by being intoxicated, either by substances or by some destructive mentality. So then they are working very, very hard, they're enjoying the senses. They are primarily in the mode of passion and ignorance. And if we are observing this, then we can actually understand that they will get a reaction for this. And even if we do these kind of things, we can understand we get a reaction for that. Personally, not growing up in Krishna consciousness, I did so much nonsense. And if I see the people, I often also, I can see myself, and I remember how I used to do so much nonsense. And that will also give a reaction. Of course, as a devotee, we know Krishna, He will free us from all sinful reactions. But that is only if I fully surrender. If you fully surrender, then He will free us totally. Otherwise, there's always some karma that will be there to purify us. So by observing that situation in today's world, we contemplate and we actually see the situation of people. And then we see, I think also those who grew up in Krishna consciousness or who never made a very deep experience of performing sinful activities to the extent maybe many of us did, still we will come to the conclusion that I'm so grateful to Srila Prabhupada that he saved me. Dino is offering obeisances. So we become grateful, and we become grateful not just as a sentiment, but we become grateful to Srila Prabhupada and to all the devotees who helped us. We are grateful to Krishna that he appeared as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and with the desire to deliver fallen people. And this gratefulness is actually, initially it's a sentiment. But the more we become to understand the gravity of the situation of Kali Yuga and the sublime nature of devotional service, and we see that huge contrast, how Kali Yuga is so degraded. People, it's so difficult to find people who are actually having a deep, who are living a deep life, a worthful life, a life in Sattva Gun. It's very shallow, and it's often full of darkness. And then at the same time, all of a sudden, we see ourselves worshipping the deities. We touching the deities when we go on the altar. We chant the holy name. We take prasad. We associate with people who are very amazing, people who are very merciful, very kind, and we realize that this is such a mercy. I received a lot of mercy in my life. And then when we see people who are struggling and we can see ourselves, we feel compassionate. And when this compassion comes, we want to help them. So as we have received help by our Guru, by the Vaishnavas, by Krishna, then we also feel the need to help others. And there's different ways how we can help people. We can try to give them physical, we can help them physically by making sure they have food, by making sure they have shelter. Yesterday, when we went to the Harinam, there were some people, they were distributing water. Christians. It was nice, actually. It's nice to see that some people are serious in their faith and they preach. Of course, we probably not agree to many things and probably they don't like what we are doing, but we shouldn't be angry with them. Because actually they don't know what we are doing, and at the same time they are doing something. They are doing something for God, even though it might not be what we are doing and what we consider to be best. They are doing something. Also yesterday after the Harinam, I want to tell you that it's funny. I was walking, I was in Dhoti Kurta and I was chanting, and then there is an ice cream wala, somebody selling ice cream, and when I passed I just saw him calling me, waving me, and I actually passed, and then I went back, and so he gave me a water and he said, "Please take this." And I said, "Wow, thank you very much." And I could see he wanted to say something, so I asked him. So I didn't actually ask him, he started to speak. And so he was like hitting around the bush. I couldn't really understand what he wants to say, but then he came to the point. He told me, "You should think a little bit more, you know. You have to endeavor more. You should," he was saying, "Musst ein bisschen Gas geben, musst noch ein bisschen," you understand? Verstehst? It means you have to, it's kind of in a rude way, you tell somebody, you know, "Wake up, musst noch ein bisschen Gas geben." Yeah, komm. And so I could understand he's actually coming from a platform of envy. No, he was envious that he didn't like. And then I really felt, you know, I could feel that I'm not feeling that. I told him I'm not feeling very comfortable because I feel you're not coming from a genuine place. You're giving me a water, but I feel that you're actually looking down on me, you're judging me. And I'm not sure if that's what you, because he was a Muslim, I think. I'm not sure if that's spiritual, very spiritual, and I just don't like it, so please take the water." And I could see it had some impact on him, know that. And then I walked away, and I could see, you know, some feeling of anger comes, but I immediately understood why to be angry, he doesn't understand. He also wanted to give me ice cream. He already had it ready, but yeah. So this happens, we meet many people and we see people who are not at all spiritual, religious, and we can try to share. And Prabhupada, like we said, we can help them physically, we can help them mentally by coaching, by becoming a therapist, by becoming a counselor, and this is very nice. But the highest charity, help one can offer is knowledge and Krishna consciousness. So not only do we give them knowledge, but we try to give them Krishna consciousness. There is a little bit of a difference in that, in the sense that knowledge means I give them a book, and so now they have the knowledge, and now they are saved, which in a way is true. But we know that there is much more. We actually have to give them Krishna consciousness, meaning we have to give them an experience of Krishna consciousness. And that can be by being kind and giving a book. That in itself can be an experience for them of, wow, this is something special, this person is. Or by giving them prasad, if they hear that, wow, they are chanting and I don't understand, but I can feel it comes from some platform of the heart. It touches me. They can feel, they are conscious beings. And then when they get inspired, they come to Krishna consciousness, they come to the temple, for example, they try to practice, then it will continue. We try to be compassionate, we try to share the mercy, and we try to help others, and in this way we actually help ourselves. And yesterday I wanted to just finish with that. I was preparing for the class and I was just writing a little bit, and usually I don't follow what I write, I just like to speak what comes somehow. I feel it's more natural to speak about what's coming in the mind and heart. But I was writing, and also I sometimes you have a certain idea, I want to go in that direction, but then some other thoughts came, and somehow some realization came that, like I said before, the fact that I'm here today, the fact that I'm experiencing my relationship with Krishna, the fact that I'm understanding I'm a soul, it is all because of mercy. And it's only that mercy which actually keeps me going and keeps me in that space. It's not something else. It's how much I can connect to that mercy, how much I can be humble and really understand I am dependent on my spiritual master, I am dependent on the Vaishnavas and on Krishna. And that in the beginning, when we practice Krishna consciousness, sometimes we have this we are in Krishna consciousness, we feel happy, and then sometimes we don't. And we feel again happy, we don't. It's like a roller coaster, and it goes up and down, and actually over time we see it goes slowly up as well. But it goes down, and the higher we go up, the lower we fall. And often then I realized it's because I'm forgetting what my life is made of. It's made of mercy. And then I kind of came to that conclusion that how can I remain in that state? How can I remain to the current of mercy? And in Chaitanya Charitamrita I saw this verse of Mahaprabhu where it's said that Mahaprabhu is compared to a river of mercy, and it flows constantly. So it flows down through his disciples, and from there it flows on, and then it comes to the Acharyas and Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada becomes an object of mercy, and it flows through him to so many, and then through his disciples it flows through us, and then it comes to us. And so how can I become someone who also becomes a current of mercy that not only comes and then there is some small puddle of water and I'm trying to relish that and then again I'm drying up, but how can the current really flow constantly? And I remembered that, so basically that's the description of a Kanishta Adhikari and a beginner. No, sometimes I'm inspired, sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm, yeah, we all know that. But then the description of the Madhyama Adhikari, one of the, Prabhupada actually, he gave a very simple description what a Madhyama Adhikari means. A Madhyama Adhikari means one who is compassionate for others and tries to help others in spiritual life. So the shift comes from me to others. And we know what that means. That means one feels mercy. And that mercy comes from Krishna. And that mercy is actually non-different to love of Krishna. We know that Mahaprabhu, he came and he manifested Audharya. Audharya means actually magnanimity, it means mercy. He came to show, is a very specific kind of love. And it's described in one book by Bhaktisiddhanta, Chaitanya Bhagavat. In the beginning he very nicely explains how that Audharya is, for us, the Audharya becomes the key to access Madhurya. It's, you know, it's like a true Audharya, so that mercy. And we can do that by being really in the mood of preaching. By, even though we have so many problems, our mind, our senses, but if we just maintain that focus on I am a servant of Prabhupada, Krishna, Mahaprabhu, and they came to help others, so my first duty is to help others as well. And how did, you probably know because you listen to Keshav Maharaj's lectures, he says, no, if you help somebody else, then you basically ironing out your own life. I forgot the exact wording, but he said it so nicely. So I'm having problems and I try to solve the problems, but they come again and again. But then all of a sudden I make this switch, I help others, and I realize my problems are all solved. And so we are here to learn, actually, to become a more advanced devotee. And for this we have to practice compassion and preaching. So we do it now. Today again we go to the lake and we all can, we try, we do chanting, we do book distribution, prasadam distribution. And even sometimes we don't feel, but by doing it, it will come. So thank you for listening. We are already 5 minutes over time. Please forgive me. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Rancha Prabhupada Sindhu Bhiracha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavabhyo.
the